Do you think there is a need for Islamophobia to be seen as a separate crime? Sanjay, good morning.
Morning, mate.
What do you think?
I think it was really silly of him to say that, and I think it's wrong making that into like something against the law, Islamophobia. I mean, what is Islamophobia? I mean, in the 80s and 90s, people were not criticizing Muslims or Islam. It started after all the bombings and, the grooming gangs. It got worse. So all it is just us British are just talking about certain things. We don't want it affecting Britain or the future of Britain. And then all of a sudden we're Islamophobics, just criticizing, and it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. This is a start of becoming a Sharia country if they do this. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So are they going to make this for every other religion as well then? Is it going to be like you can't be criticized any religion then? Is it going to be against the law? I mean, haven't police got enough things to do? They can't even do their job without this. So they want to add this into it as well.
Sanjay, do you not see the difference between someone criticizing a religion, which of course you are more than able to do, and daubing graffiti on the side of a mosque, or ripping a woman's hijab off on the street, or spitting at a man who has a beard, or indeed in some instances, assaulting Muslims?
There's not been many cases like that.
No. But do you not see a difference between criticizing religion and Islamophobic attacks? People who are willing to attack Muslims because they are Muslims. Do you see a difference between those two things?
No, but I see more Muslims attacking non-Muslims than non-Muslims attacking Muslims. I don't see that. And these are just
just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I haven't seen lots of things, but it doesn't mean, recently I haven't seen anyone say the N-word to a black person, but that is not, do I assume that racism has gone away?
I don't know why they're doing this. I really don't. Even when the grooming gangs happen, they put on the
shouldn't Muslims be protected? Aren't Muslims British just like you and me? Then why shouldn't they be protected?
When there was Muslim grooming gangs, they were putting all over the media Asian. I was offended by that. Why are they putting Asian?
Well, okay, we're getting off the point here.
Yeah.
Because what we want to come back to is this issue about Islamophobia. Now, are you saying that you don't think that there are any Islamophobic attacks in the UK?
I don't think there are, and if there are, they're just making them up, because there's more attacks that Muslims are doing to non-Muslims and more of a threat to Britain than the opposite other way around, because non-Muslims are open-minded people. I mean, obviously they're going to have a...
So are Muslims. They seem more open-minded than you are about Muslims. What they would prosecute you for, Sanjay, is if you went up to a Muslim in the street and spat at them, or punched them, or ripped a woman's hijab off, or daubed graffiti on a mosque, then you should be prosecuted for that, don't you think?
That does not happen. I'm telling you that.
It has happened. There's no way you can say it hasn't happened, because it has happened. All of those things have happened, and continue to happen.
Not as much as what Muslims are doing wrong to the non-Muslim, like raping 1,400 little girls. I mean, you tell me that case where Muslim girls been raped by non-Muslim men.
But that's look. We've done enough phone-ins about that. Vijay, good morning. Do you agree with Mohammed Ayub that people who choose to deliberately offend Muslims, there should be a law in place to punish them for doing that?
I think there should be a law in place preventing anybody expressing hatred of any religion. Because if you look at the word Islamophobia, a phobia is an unfounded fear of something.
Yeah, we've covered that.
So just because somebody questions Islam or asks a question about Islam, I think it's a very cheap way of shutting the whole.
What about deliberately offends?
Sorry, can I just finish my point?
No. What about deliberate? No, because you're making a point that's been made before. Deliberately offends, not chooses to say something about Islam, but deliberately offends. That was Mohammed Ayub's specific thing. Deliberately offends.
I think to deliberately offend, should be a crime, as with any religion, but I don't think it should be a crime to ask a question of Islam. For example, what annoys me sometimes is that if somebody asks a pertinent question about Islam, people will say, "Oh, you're just being Islamophobic," and then shut the conversation down. If I asked a question about Muhammad, at the age of 51, marrying 6-year-old Alicia and consummating the marriage when he was 54 and she was 9, people would say, "Oh, you're being Islamophobic." But I'm not being Islamophobic. I'm just stating what I've read or about Islam or what people are saying. That's not Islamophobic. But anybody swearing at a Muslim, I would stick up for that Muslim. I would think it would be
so. Is this the problem? I mean,
people are human beings.
Okay.
The only thing that does annoy me as well is that when people put a blanket on all Muslims at the end of the day and say, "Oh, all Muslims are like this because of this," that's wrong. But the other thing that does need to be weighed up is the fact that Muslims have the freedom to, for example, to call other people kafirs and unbelievers and say, oh, you're kafirs, you're all going to hell. And when people hear that, they do get offended. So when they go to the verse in the Quran that say that and say, look, this verse is homophobic, this verse is sexist, this verse says you can beat your women, this verse says, all non-Muslims are going to go to hell. So when people get offended by that, people should have the right to be offended and say, look, this is in the Quran, we think it's wrong. That's not Islamophobia.
All right, Vijay, thank you very much indeed. Rab has called in from Birmingham.
I don't think that, Islamophobia, like I say, people generally use that word and they use it very, very loosely. But there's lots of phobias that people have, phobias of certain things. And, like some of your callers that have come on, like the gentleman, that guy who came on a couple of...
Sanjay, yeah.
Sanjay from Leicester or whatever. He's, anti-Islam anyway, because every single topic that he's ever been on, he's always blasted Islam, and he seems to have a really, really bad problem with it. So, his opinion isn't actually valid, because he's not going to give a fair opinion. He's just going to...
Yeah, but that's Mohammed Ayoub's point is that someone like that wouldn't be prosecuted.